Hey, welcome to the weekend, Terranova. How's everybody doing? On another warm weekend, it's going to be like Christmas and like 89 degrees. It just seems like that's possible on a day like we've had over the last few days. Hey, if you're here in the room, I want to invite you to stand up. We're going to sing together as we celebrate tonight. It's got a great night, kicking off a brand new series. If you're joining us online, thank you so much. Lyrics are available on the app or on the website. Want to invite you wherever you are just to sing along and participate with us. You're here not just in spirit, but it's even so much more than that when we join together. So let's stand, let's sing, let's clap and sing. I think I mentioned that, and here we go.
It's always like springtime with you, making all things
down. There were chains around us, but by your grace we are no longer bound, no longer bound. You called me out of the grave, you called me into the light, you called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens. So feel the darkness shaking, all the dead are coming back to life, back to life. Hear the song awaken, all creation singing, you're alive, 'cause you're alive. You called me out of the grave, you called me into the light, you called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Oh, what a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. What a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. What a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater, your love is stronger, your love awakens, awakens, awakens me.
Well, hey, it's great to be with you at Terra Nova, whether you're watching online or you're here in the room. I think you know what this weekend is all about. This weekend is about observing the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We've heard a lot about that. 20 years ago, Day of Terror, with 3,000 people perishing and 25,000 people injured through the attacks on the East Coast. It was a time where our world has really changed. There's been a lot that has changed in 20 years as a result of 9/11. I know my life has changed. I've got a 9/11 story. It was really at that moment 20 years ago that God began to stir up for me a real passion and a love to reach the Muslim world. And that's a passion that we have here at Terra Nova. But all throughout the weekend, we have been encouraged to never forget 9/11. And so for me, the thing that was most unforgettable of that day, the most unforgettable thing, was what was happening in the towers after the towers had gotten hit, and people were trying to escape with their lives. And going down the stairwells in the two towers, and some of you know that the elevators had been knocked out, and people were desperately trying to get down those stairwells, but we know from the stories and from the pictures and images and videos is that there was a group of people that, while folks were going down, there was a group of people that were going up. And that they were our firemen, our policemen, our first responders, and that while everything was falling apart and people were going down, they were going up knowing full well that they would never return, that they'd never get out safely, and yet they went. And to me, it just really speaks of just paying the ultimate sacrifice, and how actually, when you really boil it all down, is that love is a sacrifice. At least the type of love that the scriptures tell us about. The type of love that Jesus himself demonstrated. Sacrificing himself on the cross. And it's this love that we actually believe can change the world as it changes our lives. That it can bring healing to our lives. It can even bring healing to the nations 20 years later. It can do that. That sacrificial type of love. And that is the love that God desires to engage us with, so that God's love flows through our lives into the world. Flows through our lives and the lives of other people, and that all we need to do is just to embrace God, to engage God, and then just stand in his love and let God's love do the rest. And so I would love to have you think about that on this special weekend as the band leads us in a song that I think connects really well with what I've just shared.
Darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I want, when brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide. And I am not a captive to lies. Oh, I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Oh, I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, 'cause we know he's got power. 'Cause there's power that can break up every chain. Oh, there's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. There's power that can break up every chain. Oh, there's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name, oh Jesus. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't
Now let's pray together. Lord, that's what we want to do, God. We want to place our fears, God, in your hands. God, we want to place our lives in your hands, Lord, and we're asking that you replace the fears that we have with faith and trust and confidence in you, Lord, and knowing that we're loved. God, knowing that we're loved, and if we are loved by you, the creator of the universe, God, that means that there's just so many wide open doors of possibilities that are open to us. Ways that you want to use us, God, ways that you want to heal us, God, ways that you want to use us to be a blessing to the people that are around us, Lord. So we are trusting that this moment would be one of those times where we're drawing close to you so that you can give us, God, what we need, God, to fulfill the calling that you've placed on our lives, each one of us, God. And so we're seeking you for that now, and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, again, just welcome to Terra Nova. If you're here in the room, I'd like you to go ahead and invite you to have a seat. If you're watching online, you can have a seat as well. If you're standing up in your living room, I suppose, it's always great to have you here and connecting with us. And again, just really grateful that we have this opportunity to gather, that we have this time to be able to encourage one another, and this time to be able to draw close to God and also to explore the scriptures. And we're going to get to that in just a little while. But before we do, what I'd like to do is I'd like to walk you through what it is that if you came inside that you received, hopefully when you got in here. It's the weekend program, so why don't you go ahead and pull it out. That'd be great. And as you do, the thing I'd like for all of us to put our focus on is this perforated tear-off card that we have on the back called the Connect card. And what I like to do is just to fold this in half and tear it off because, again, it's perforated, easy to do. And then what you'll want to do is to take that pen that you received and then just to begin to fill us out both sides. That would be great. And so, because here's the thing, is that we really want to hear from everybody, whether it's your first time, your second time, whether you've been here multiple times. We just love to hear from everybody. And we can also hear from those of you who are online, that you can go ahead and use the online feature, the Terra Nova app too, if you have that on their phone. The Connect card is on your app, and some people prefer to fill out the Connect card using their app, which is great. But what we're hoping that everybody can do is just to start with putting your name on it, and then check some boxes, fill in some blanks. On the back, there's a place for you to write some words of update. Let us know how you're doing. That would be fantastic. Or share with us a prayer request. If there's something going on that we can be praying for, we'd love to do that. So take some time throughout our time together and get working on this. And man, we'd just be so grateful for you to invest in the time that it takes to get this thing all put together. So it'll be great. It makes us a stronger church because, frankly, we just want to be this relationally strong church. And the Connect card is one way that we do that. If everybody decides to do that, it just it super accelerates just the strength that we, I think, have relationally to connect well with each other. So anyway, you can go ahead and spend time with that. Now, as you are working on that, you can open it up. You'll see some things that we've inserted here. We've got Kids Feeding Kids coming up. Got a card on that. We're going to talk about that in a little while. You've got some message notes. You can go ahead and use that. Also, notes are on your app. We've got a giving envelope as well that you can use a little bit later on. Man, we've just got such a great, generous church that we get to be a part of. And also, if you've been around the last couple of weeks, you know that we just finished a series called Be Rich. And I know that some of you are working on your commitments to the Be Rich campaign. And you might have even brought your card in to hand in, or you're ready to hand that in online. That'd be fantastic. We're going to announce next week a progress report on how we're doing with the campaign, so you'll hear a little bit about that. And so that's going to be fantastic. And then the real big thing that we've got here that you can pull out is this guy right here. And this is our life group brochure that tells you about all the life groups that are going on coming up here in the fall. In a couple weeks, our groups are going to be starting, and we use September as our month to let everybody know of the groups that we have available and for everybody to pick the groups that they're going to be in. And so as you open this up, you're going to see all different kinds of groups, which is great. And I'm sure that you'll spend a little bit of time just kind of finding out which of the groups meet on which days, which group might be a good fit for you. And I know that when you take a look at a list like this and you're listening to a guy like me encouraging you to sign up for a group because it's good for you, we're not asking you to do stuff that's bad for you. This is actually going to be good for your spiritual health and well-being, and it's going to be good for you emotionally as well as you connect with people. I know that oftentimes the knee-jerk reaction that we have, I know it's my knee-jerk reaction, is looking at this and saying, I wonder if I can find a group that I can get a lot of stuff out of. Which group is that going to be? The group that's really going to fit for me, that's going to help me. And that is a completely valid thing to think about. But I want to just challenge you to kind of take another step beyond just that. And that's to begin thinking, praying, and looking at the list of groups and begin asking God and saying, God, which group would you guide and direct me to that I might be able then to have an impact in? Which group might you lead me to where there's people in that group that I can love and serve? Because see, here's what we're convinced of at Terra Nova is that God has really called us and built us for others. And to be serving others, to be loving others, to be reaching others. And so there's a really good chance, I believe, that God would be leading you to a group that you can have an impact in the lives of the people that will also be in that group. And so that kind of makes it exciting, doesn't it? Doesn't that kind of put it a little bit more on the edge of your seat that God actually might be up to something as you decide which group that you want to be in. And so this is the first weekend for us to sign up with groups, and we'd love to have you be quick on the draw on that. You can go ahead and use the life group brochure and just go ahead and fill this out if you found the group during this time that you would like to be in, and then just go ahead and get it to us this weekend. And then we also have the groups online, and you can also find that life group button on your app, and you can sign up on that. And we are super excited to have everybody in a group this fall at Terra Nova. Well, again, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for joining us. And we are here starting off a brand new series. So now let's go ahead and begin this series that we call Speak Life.
Well, hey, welcome. How are you guys doing? Great to see you. As we're kicking off a brand new series, Speak Life, the right words at the right time, Q25 message fader. You guys see that? That's on the screen. Yeah. It's crazy. The right words at the right time. That's my ADD kicking in right there. And every time I see that title, not that title, I did it again. I think, wouldn't that be nice? Like the right words at the right time, wouldn't that be nice? I've been thinking, how would that be for a superpower? Like really, the right words at the right time superpower. So I don't know if you ever find yourself in group settings where people are like, well, what would you guys want for your superpower? And somebody's like, invisibility, or I want to fly. And I think, how about the right words at the right time? How amazing would that be? Like to say the thing in the moment that turns the situation around, that brings out the best in people, that inspires somebody to go farther. And I'm like, what an amazing thing. But it's not easy, is it? It's not at all easy. Healthy, effective communication is very complicated. Quite often, I simply don't know what to say or how to say it, or even when to say it. Sometimes, straight up, I think this is true of all of us. Sometimes we just say the wrong thing. Sometimes we say the wrong thing and we know it. Sometimes we say the wrong thing and we know it immediately, like as we're saying it. And sometimes when we know we said the wrong thing, we admit it. Sometimes. But then there are a lot of times I think that we say the right thing, but we say the right thing the wrong way. I think as a parent, that's like my Achilles heel, but I'm right. But that was the right thing, but I did not say it the right way. And when you say the right thing the wrong way, it's wrong. Or how about this? We say the right thing, but it's the wrong time. That's called parenting teenagers. It's like you got to, the mood, you got to test the waters, like how is this going to fly today? And we say the right thing at the wrong time. Sometimes we say the right thing, we say one thing, and they hear something entirely different. And we call that marriage. Yeah, I think I saw somebody say, yes, but honestly, this is true across the board in relationships, in all kinds of relationships. Wait a minute, what do you think I said? Because this conflict and this emotion isn't really making sense to me right now. And I think sometimes we would just be better off not saying anything at all. Am I right? And then sometimes we do more damage not saying anything at all. It's messy. It's complicated, and maybe now more than ever before. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to podcasts while I run, and I run a lot, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I've been noticing over the past few months that a number of different speakers and thinkers and leaders have been commenting that it seems like our nation right now, and by the way, it hasn't been great for a long time. I mean, relational intelligence and emotional intelligence has not exactly been high for probably decades, but now it seems more than ever before. I hear people commenting that our nation is desperately in need of some kind of like mandatory remedial relationship education. Like everybody has to sit down and learn simple things like how to have a conversation. I mean, we're so glued to our one-way communication devices, people don't know how to talk to each other anymore, how to have a conversation, how to listen and actually take in what the other person is saying and then formulate your response based on what they're saying. How about this one? Asking questions. The art of inquiry and curiosity is lost. People don't ask each other great questions anymore. Keeping eye contact and interest. It seems like we are all, like our whole nation, not you, but everybody else is in desperate need of remedial relationship education. And that's why we're kicking off this great new 4-part series called Speak Life, the right words at the right times. And we're going to talk about the power of our words. We're going to talk next week about how our innate temperaments shape and color the words that we choose, the words that we use, and the words that we hear, and how we hear the words that others are saying, and how those unique temperaments and personalities shape how our family members and coworkers and friend groups and such, how they choose their words and how they hear words as well. Don't miss next week. It's going to be great. And speaking of how we hear words, that might just be where we need the most help, because not only do we often not know what to say or how to say it, I am convinced that we don't know what to hear or how to hear it. And that's a problem. We're going to talk about that in week 3. And then in week 4, we're going to talk about what I think is the most life-giving thing a person can ever say and why it is so often we do not say it. But here's the thing. Words are powerful. Words are powerful. And we all know this from our personal experience. There are times in our lives when like we really needed to hear something. Maybe we didn't even know it. Maybe we weren't even aware of it at the time, but we needed to hear something and someone said those words in like a meaningful, real, authentic way. And maybe it was like a coach or some kind of influencer in your life, a mentor, a parent, maybe just a good friend, and they said what you needed to hear, maybe even words you didn't know you needed to hear, and it was just so life-giving. It was affirming, it was helpful, and I've had a few of those moments in my life that actually have shaped my life that are still memorable to me, and maybe you have too, that hearing what you needed to hear at just the right time is life-giving. And at the same time, I think there are times in all of our lives when we really need to hear something and maybe didn't know even that we needed to hear it, and it's exactly not what we heard. Probably a lot of moments like that. Or worse, we actually heard the opposite. Like life-taking words. Words that sapped life and energy and hope and courage and optimism that left us feeling just kind of like empty or unmotivated or defeated. And then I feel like I should say, there are, of course, times in our lives when the thing that we really need to hear is totally not the thing that we want to hear, okay? And that's just a completely different deal. That's different, okay? But this whole thing about life-giving moments and life-taking moments is exactly what the Proverbs is getting at with a very famous statement. There's a collection of wise sayings in the Hebrew Scriptures known as the Proverbs, and one of them, a very famous proverb, goes like this: the tongue has the power of life and death. The tongue has the power of life and death. And isn't that true? Isn't that true? That just with a few words, in a few moments, you can fill someone's heart or you can crush it? Isn't it true that just with a few words, in a few moments, you can inflate someone with confidence or deflate them with self-doubt? Isn't it true with just a few words, in a moment or two, you can impart a sense of value and worth and importance, or you can cripple someone with shame and fear? Isn't it true? Isn't it true that our words can draw people in or push them away? Our words can surround someone with support or isolate them with opposition. Our words can heal and restore a relationship or burn it to the ground. Isn't it true? Isn't it true that just a few words can do that? Like, yeah, that's true. Why? Because the tongue has the power of life and death. And no one understood that better than a man named James. Now, James was actually one of the most famous leaders in the first century world in the Eastern Mediterranean part of the world. He happened to be the leader of the Jesus movement, or the church, if you will, in the city of Jerusalem itself in the middle of the first century. And that church, that Jesus community in Jerusalem was kind of like the epicenter of the whole movement, even as it grew and spread, even as it outgrew that community itself. And in James' lifetime, he had seen that Jesus movement grow. He had seen opposition to the movement grow as well. And at about 60 AD, James is watching a civil war brewing in his nation. And he's watching words. The power of words, the power of rhetoric and propaganda, the inability of people to actually listen to each other, and instead being quick to speak and quick to anger. He's watching the polarization, he's watching the demonization of others destroy the very fabric of his own people. And it was soon to erupt in full-scale war against the Romans and against the insider elites and temple elites of his own Jewish people. And that war that was coming would end with the complete destruction of the city of Jerusalem, the temple, and the deaths of tens of thousands of his fellow countrymen. And James, in the middle of this brewing conflict, James was well known in ancient history as being like the Martin Luther King Jr. of his day. I mean, he wasn't known as being like Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, this is 0060, not 1960. But he was known as being like that type of person, this voice of calm and reason, and yet at the same time, unwavering in his convictions of righteousness and justice. In fact, you know what James' nickname was? You know what they called him? They called him James the Just. James the Just, because everybody knew that's what he was all about. And yet he was against this violence and against this polarization. And like MLK, he too would be killed right around 60 AD by powerful people who opposed him and what he stood for. Interesting side note, by the way, James had a rather famous brother. Anyone want to take a wild guess who James's brother was? Jesus, yeah. How's that for a brother? But James did not follow Jesus or believe his brother to be the Messiah during Jesus' ministry years, as we call them, as he was walking this earth. It was only after Jesus' death, as a matter of historical fact, by the way, that James began to follow Jesus or call him his Lord and his Messiah. And according to James and so many of the other of the first Christians, it was because James and the rest of them saw Jesus alive after he died. And you're like, I don't know if I believe that's true, but that would probably do it for me too. Like if I saw my brother alive after he died, I might think that just maybe, right? And so it's in the middle of this hot mess that James writes a letter to Jesus followers. Now that's an important point because he's not writing this letter to anybody else. And he's like, hey, everybody else out there, they can do whatever they're going to do. They can pick whatever fights they're going to fight. They can behave any way they want to behave. But listen. If you follow the Lord Jesus, the Messiah, hey, we run off of a different operating system. That's not us. That's not what we do. And he writes this letter And this letter was so valued and so precious to people. And they kept it and they copied it. And Jesus' followers all over the world began to read it and make more copies and spread it around and value it. And it was eventually collected as one of the documents that is found in what's called the New Testament in our Bibles. That's right. You've got James's letter that he wrote in the middle of this in your Bible, which is pretty cool. And I would encourage you to read it because it is about as relevant now as it was when he wrote it then. And it's in the middle of this letter, and that's important. He's been talking about some stuff. We're jumping in the middle. In the middle of this letter, he says this. He says, we all stumble in many ways. Check. Yep, me too, right? Then he says, hey, anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect. Any takers? Anyone? No? That seems pretty unlikely, right? But here's what he says. If it were true, like, let's throw this hypothetical out. If it could be true, he then makes an important observation. He says, if you could keep that in check, they would be able to keep their whole body in check, their whole life, if you will, in check. In other words, he's like, hey, you get this thing, figured out, you get that dialed in, everything else will follow. You will be perfect. And the way they use that word, it meant mature. We would say, like, this person is just uber healthy. Like, they are so well put together. You will be this healthy individual, and everything else you do will change for better, and everything else in your life will get healthier. And here's his point, and he is going to drive this point home. Words have power. Words have power, and he's watching this happen in the world around him, and we're watching it happen in our world too, and some of us are watching it happen in our own personal world, that our words have the power to direct the course of things. The words have the power to direct the course of our lives. Our words have the power to direct the course of others' lives. The words that we say to others, the words that they say to us, the words that we say to ourselves, words that sometimes just spill so freely and thoughtlessly out of our mouths. Those words, he's saying, are far more powerful than we often realize. And the words that we're saying to each other all the time, or texting, or emailing, or posting, or commenting, the words that we're saying are actually directing the course of our lives. As I'm spilling that nonsense out, I am directing the course of my life, but not just my life. I'm directing the course of relationships. We're directing the course of our communities. We're determining the direction not only of our lives, but of others as well. And then he's like, well, I can see that maybe you're a little bit skeptical. I can see that maybe you're thinking, really? I mean, come on, James. I mean, they're just words, bro. I mean, like, take it easy. They're just little insignificant words. He goes, think about it this way. When we put bits in the mouths of horses, we can make them obey us. We can turn the whole animal. Just a small piece of metal in the mouth of this huge horse. You got this tiny little guy riding on 2,000 pounds of muscle. But you direct that horse's mouth, you direct its whole body. You direct the course of its life. Or he goes, all right, take ships for example. So large, driven by strong winds. He's like, huge ships, strong forces at play. But the smallest little thing determines the direction. It's steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. And he says, and that's you. That's you, and you don't even realize it. And that's your mouth. That's the power that the tongue has. The tongue is just like that. It is this small little part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Words are powerful. Words are powerful. They have a completely disproportionate influence on the direction of our lives. The words we say to others, the words they say to us, and the words we say to ourselves. And James says, don't take this lightly, friends. Don't take this lightly. And this is true both positively and negatively, that the tongue has the power of life and death. And now he shifts to the destructive power of words. And here he uses an illustration that we need no imagination for. Because many of us don't have a clue about horses. We don't know a whole lot about ships. But fires? We know fires. We know fires. And he says, consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. That picture is taken from Northern California this summer. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark, the boundless, seemingly infinite destructive potential of a small spark or a small word. He says, the tongue is that fire. The tongue is also like that. That's your mouth. And you want to know what the crazy thing is? As I've been reflecting on this, the crazy thing is, I know this. I have heard this before. And some of you have too. Some of you are thinking, wait a minute. Is this a rerun? Haven't we watched this episode before? I'm pretty sure I've heard this message or something like it. Here's the deal. I get this. I really do. I've heard this. I get this. But I do not consistently live like this. And though not a single person in this room or watching would be dumb enough, seriously, not a single one of us would be dumb enough to go playing with matches on the hills of Orange County in the summer or fall, ever. Like, we would never be that stupid, like, hey, let's go set off some fireworks, let's just start a small little fire. Not only would we not be that dumb, we wouldn't even allow anyone around us to do it. You're out with a group of people hiking through the hills and they start lighting matches. You're like, oh, no. Oh, you better put that away. That is not about to happen while I'm standing here. We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't allow it. And yet we let our tongues loose every day. Burn, baby, burn. The tongue also is a fire, he says. It is a world of evil among the parts of the body. It has this capacity for destruction and evil that is endless. World wars have been started by words, by rhetoric, by ideas. Mass shootings have been provoked by bullying words. People groups have been oppressed, enslaved, and even slaughtered. Genocides have taken place because of false narratives promoted about people groups, words that were said and believed, just words. Marriages have been destroyed. Businesses have been ruined. Reputations have been ruined. Futures have been ended. Families torn apart. Children reduced to lesser versions than the life that they were created by their Heavenly Father to live. Scripts of shame and fear and cynicism have played out for years and years and years in many of our lives because of the destructive power of words. Just words. Words not only have the power to direct the course of our lives, words very much have the power to destroy the course of someone's life, our lives and the lives of others. And listen, that doesn't really seem fair, does it? It doesn't. I get the pushback to this. They're just words. They're just words. It just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem like an appropriate level of cause and effect. Does it really? I mean, it doesn't seem like this little thing should result in that much destruction. I mean, it seems to me like if the spark is just this, well, then the result should only be like that, right? I mean, if all I said was, I mean, I didn't even mean it. All I said was, then your reaction should only be about like this. And James says, you don't understand the power of words. You don't get what you're dealing with. You don't understand the power of words, the destructive potential that just a few words might have, because that tiny little word spark might start feeding on some fuel of other things going on in a person's life and their own story and their own past and things that you haven't seen, and you could burn down a whole forest and not even know it. He says it is a world of evil among the parts of the body, and it meaning your words. My words, the words I say to other people, the words they say to me, the words I'm saying to myself have a potentially corrupting effect on all of our lives. Now, we did a whole series on the words that we say to ourselves this spring called Winning the War in Our Minds, where we talked about the power of our inner words, our inner narratives to destroy and corrupt the course of our lives. He says it corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Now, you know some people that's true of, right? Like you know some people that's true. You've heard the way that they just lash out, maybe at their employees or the coworkers or a waiter or a waitress, the way they trash people that they disagree with, the way they give people a piece of their mind. And you may have never like put it in these kinds of words before, but you're reading this right now and you're thinking, I think their mouth is set on fire by hell. I think that's probably what's going on. But James says, oh, hey, that's not just true of some people. And that's not just true of those people. That's true of all people. That's true of you. It's true of me. You're walking around with a lit match in your mouth. I'm walking around with a lit match, and that match got lit in hell. Not hell as a place of torment or judgment, but hell as a source of evil and darkness and destruction and pain. And we say things like, I just don't know where that came from. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know where that came from. James would be like, I do. I know exactly where that came from. It came from hell, and your mouth got lit, and then you just let the fire burn. And then James is like, listen, you think this is something to be taken lightly? It's not. And again, you can just feel his own passion about this because he's speaking to cultures and communities that are in the process of burning themselves down while he's watching it, lighting fires recreationally and feeling totally justified and totally righteous in picking the fights that they're picking. And he's watching communities. And he's watching people who used to love well. He's watching marriages burn down and be destroyed by words. And he says, listen, hey, you think this can be taken lightly? It can't. All kinds of animals and birds and reptiles and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind. But what's this? Read this out loud with me. No human being can tame the tongue. Let's say that again out loud. No human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil. Restless, that word restless, the idea, the picture here is there as an image of a caged animal. Just like he's in the cage, but he's not happy. And he's clawing and he's trying to get out. And he's like, that's your tongue. This restless evil, and no human being can tame it. Now the point here is like, so don't even try. You might as well just go for it. His point is, you will never reach a point in your life or your journey. I will never reach a point in my life or my journey where I don't have to worry about this anymore, where I don't have to be cautious anymore, where I can just drop my guard, check the box, say I'm done. He's like, it has to be watched. It has to be guarded every single day. This thing is so destructive and it is so powerful. So back to our wise saying from the book of Proverbs, the tongue has the power of life and death. And then the proverb adds this second line. All of the proverbs have these pairs of lines, and it adds this line, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue has a power of life and death, and those who love it, in other words, those who really appreciate this, those who get this and appreciate this power and cherish that and really apply this, they will benefit from the fruit of life-giving words. They will speak life, and they will benefit from the fruit of it. Words have the power of life and death. So as I kick off this series, I just want to start with a question, and the question is just this. So what kind of words are flowing from you? Think through your day, think through this last week, think through this last season. Like, what kind of words are flowing from you? Life-giving words or life-taking words? What flows from you naturally? Are they words of courage and hope and affirmation and appreciation and healing, words that disarm tensions and build understanding? Or are your words often more of criticism and correction and maybe anger or cynicism, defeat discouragement, despair, maybe snarky words, snipey words, words that aggravate tensions and increase division. What kind of words are usually flowing from you? There's an article in the Harvard Business Review a few years back. It's talking about the ideal praise to criticism ratio. Like, what is the ideal praise to criticism ratio? The ideal ratio of life-giving words and life-taking words. And these groups had done some research with real high-performance teams, like teams that were just really killing it. And they were specifically looking at how these teams interacted, what they said to each other, the ratio of their negative words and their positive words used while they were carrying out their business as researchers kind of watched them go do their thing, right? And take notes and such. And negative words, for the study's sake, negative words included all words of any kind of criticism, any kind of correction. I don't agree with that, any disagreement, any pushback, any challenge, but also, of course, words of blame and sarcasm and put downs or just even disapproval. All of those rated as negative words. And then positive words were words like, hey, I totally agree. What a great idea. That's what we should do. You're really good at that. How can I help? Like words that were approving and words of agreement, acknowledgement, appreciation, support. Like, how can we do this together well and so forth? And it's really important. The point of the article was not that negative words should be eliminated. They're bad. So never use them again. In fact, the article went totally out of its way to make a huge point about the importance of honest critique, of people being able to speak their mind, push back, so that the bus doesn't drive over the cliff. Somebody's got to speak up and say, bus driver. Like, there needs to be that in any kind of high performance situation. The point was that high performance teams had a way of outweighing all of that necessary pushback that they did and did honestly. They had a way of outweighing all of those necessary disagreements with way more positive, life-giving words. Way more. In fact, to the tune of 5-1. 5 positive words, 5 positive interactions for every negative word, 5 affirmations, encouragements, support, and so forth for every word of pushback or disagreement or challenge. 5 positive to 1 negative. And then the article makes reference to some really famous research that some of you already know about by a guy named John Gottman. And many of you have heard of John Gottman, the very renowned marriage and family researcher. And Gottman was somewhat legendary for having reached the point where he could predict with 94% accuracy whether a couple was headed towards divorce in the next 3 years just by watching them interact. Just by watching them talk to each other and how they talk to each other and their body language as they talk to each other. And according to Gottman, the ideal ratio of positive, life-giving words in a marriage to negative, life-taking words is, anyone want to take a guess? 5-1. 5-1, look at that. And then researchers that were working with kids, child development experts, kind of got on this bandwagon. I wonder if it's the same. And as they did the research, they're like, wow, it looks like it's about the same ratio. So it seems like as necessary as negative words often are, and they are in a family and in a work group, as necessary as they sometimes might be for relationships, business relationships, family relationships, friendships, marriages, parenting, home life, whatever. For relationships to thrive, the ideal balance that we're coming up with all the time is like we're saying 5 life-giving things for every 1 life-taking thing. Now that is what the research says is ideal. But as you might imagine, it's not common. It is not common. I don't think it's normal. It's probably not natural. According to Gottman's researchers just on marriage and family, their research on family and marriages and parents, kids, home life and such, the common ratio in our homes is a little more like this, 1-6. It's the common ratio. Marriages, parenting, family. Why didn't you do that? I thought you said you were going to pick that up. Have you still left that as a mess? Would you please put your things in the dishwasher? I mean, just again and again, the snark and the nagging, the kinds of comments that just seem to take place in the natural course of things as corrections and disapprovals and frustrations are being consistently voiced. 6 complaints, 6 criticisms, 6 challenges, 6 confrontations, and again, some of which are necessary. They have to take place, but 6 life-taking words for every one life-giving word in the common average household. That explains a lot, doesn't it? That explains a lot. It explains why so many work environments are so toxic, why so many people hate their jobs. It explains why so many home environments are so difficult, why so many marriages are in trouble. And by the way, we're starting this new marriage events/group on Thursday nights that you can find out more about in your life group brochure called Re-Engage. Sign up for that. It explains why so many kids are struggling with anxiety and depression and insecurity and self-esteem issues. That our ratios are way off. So here's my question for you. What is your ratio? What do you think it is? What do you think your ratio is? How are you doing at this? Are you the 5 to 1? Are you the 1 to 6? As you would think through like key spheres and relationships and environments in your life, work teams, volunteer teams, groups around here, like life group, family, home life, and so forth. Here's the thing. You have a ratio. I have a ratio, and I bet you don't know what it is. I know I don't know what it is. I don't even think this way, do you? So this week, think about it. That's all I'm asking. Just think about it. Think about your own ratio as you go through the week, because the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it, those who appreciate that, get it, cherish that power, will benefit from the fruit of it. Now, part of the challenge of doing what I just said, of speaking, or frankly even hearing life-giving words, words that need to be said and words that need to be heard and so forth, part of the challenge is that we're all so different from each other. And part of what that means is that sometimes the words you most need to hear are totally not the words I would most need to hear, and vice versa. Sometimes the words I most need to hear are not only the words that you wouldn't need to hear, but they're words that you would be very uninclined to actually say. It's just not you. We're so different. So how do we know in our work groups, in our friendships, in our family settings, what words would be life-giving? That's a great question. And the answer is, don't miss next week, because that's where we're going next week. But I want to end today with a question as we kick off the series, just to get you thinking this week. And the question, to come back to it, is what kind of words are flowing from you? Just, can I be aware of that this week? What kind of words are flowing from me? As I think about the different arenas and environments of my life, are my words of courage and hope and healing? And are they life-giving words that mend relationships and bring people back together? Or are my words often words of correction and criticism, or harping, or anger, defeat, discouragement, and so forth? What kind of words? Life or death? The tongue has the power of life to death. And the downside of this great power, according to James, is just huge. And it's scary, right? It's scary. It's destructive. And we've all seen the destructive power of our words. But here's what I want to leave us with. The upside of this power, the upside of this superpower is even greater. I mean, think about how amazing it is that you might be able to speak life to people, that you have the power to speak life, to impart things that inspire and build up and motivate and draw people in. And here's the thing, I bet you probably don't think you do. I bet you don't think you do. We don't just underestimate the negative potential of our words, thinking they're just words. I think we underestimate the positive potential of our words. We just underestimate it. We sell ourselves short. We don't believe that our words can make that much of a difference in someone else's life. Now, to be clear, our words don't carry the same weight with every person. This power is not evenly spread across the board. There are some people, because of your connection, because of your standing in their life, because of your relationship or history, you have an even greater power to speak life. And there are some people, I mean, words are always, by the way, always powerful, and always have the power to create good, like to direct and yes, even destroy the course of people's lives. That is always true. And there are some people in your life where your words just carry a disproportionate weight. And I want to step aside here and talk to a particular group of people for just a second. Parents, your words carry a a disproportionate weight. My words carry a disproportionate weight. You have the power to create. You have the power to shape and motivate and inspire and direct the course of someone's life. You have a disproportionate power even after they're growing up, even after they hit those teen years or those young adult years, and they act like what you say doesn't matter, and they tell you that what you say doesn't matter. Don't you believe them? Not for a second. Don't you believe them? They will carry our words long after we're dead and gone. Just like I carry my parents' words long after they are dead and gone. Our words, especially as parents, but now collectively for all of us, our words have the power of life and death. Sometimes disproportionately so. And yes, the downside is scary, and James has warned us about this, but the upside is huge, and it is amazing. So what are we going to do with this week? What are we going to do with this power that we have this week? And I want to close with an exercise that I'm calling, wait for it, Life-Giving Words Challenge. I came up with that. Sometimes I can't stop it. I can't turn it off. Life-Giving Words Challenge. Yeah, very creative title. And on in your outline, if you got physical notes, here it is. It's actually on your app as well, but it doesn't look quite like that. And here's the deal. I began thinking really actually a couple months ago when we were planning this series, just about some life-giving statements. Things that would just give life to me or give life to others. Statements that some of us probably need to hear from someone in our lives right now. Statements that maybe someone else needs to hear from us. And so I created a list. And then the list kept growing, and it is not complete. And so on this form, there's room for you to add your own, because there's something that's unique to you perhaps, where it's like, hey, you could do it. I believe in you. I love you. Or how about this one? I like you. Hey, you know what? I don't say it often enough, but I really like you guys. I love the times that we spend together. I hear you. I think I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. Hey, you're really great at that. I believe in you. I was wrong. Very life-giving words. I'm truly sorry. I'm here for you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I see in you. I see in you. I see something in you. Can I just say what I see in you? There's a strength that I don't know you always notice. I'm so proud of you. I forgive you. I forgive you completely. I forgive you. I appreciate this about you. I admire you. I respect you. The list could go on and on, but here's what I want us to do. I want you to take that list, whether you're on your app or on this outline, and we're going to play a little something. In fact, I think we're going to play the video that starts off the series. Just play it softly in the background. It's about a minute, and I want to give you a minute to look at that list. Just look at it prayerfully. Read through that list and answer these two questions. Who would you love to hear that particular statement from? There's someone in your life like, oh, if I could have heard that, that would have meant so much to me. And maybe more importantly for this next week, which of these does someone else need to hear from you? As you read through this list prayerfully, one of them is, maybe two of them, maybe a few of them will jump out and you're like, I have not said that out loud. I've not said it out loud often enough. I've not said that out loud recently enough. Perhaps I have not said that out loud at all. And suddenly I realize I kind of need to. I need to say that to them. So we're going to give you a minute. Take just your time. We're going to play this softly. Prayerfully think through that list, add your own, and begin to identify which ones you would love to hear, but also maybe some that others need to hear from you.
What an amazing challenge and an amazing opportunity this is. I'm sure that you guys are still working on this and might want to work on it tonight or tomorrow. And I would encourage you to do so sort of thoughtfully and prayerfully. Like, maybe really hone in on some of these statements, or maybe ones of your own. I started to write, "I told you so," and then realized that probably I crossed it out. I'm not going to say that to anybody. But there are lots of people in our life that, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I have it all the time. I often know what I need to say. And I know when I need to say it and who I need to say it to, but sometimes I lack the courage, or I lack honestly, sometimes the forgiveness. Like, I know I could tell this to that person and it would be so healing to them and so helpful to them, but you know what? They hurt me yesterday. And I'm still holding on to that. And, not only through this series do we want to be people who learn how to use the right words, but we want to be people who give grace to others, because everybody in this room has said the wrong thing today, probably within 90 minutes, because most of us haven't said much for the last hour. We're all in the same boat in this. We're all wrestling with those ratios, trying to figure out how to effectively love and communicate that love to people in our life, and also to receive that love. So I think the flip side of this exercise is also so important. What are the things that we need to hear, and who do we need to hear them from? And this might be your challenge. This is what I'm thinking, and maybe this is just for me. What if I said some of those things to those people to see what kind of impact it might have on our relationship? That person that I really wish would say that to me, what if I said it to them? So I, again, just want to encourage you to just thoughtfully and prayerfully read through that tonight, read through that tomorrow, and think about who you could impact with your words this week. You might want to put that someplace where you'll see it, because it would do you no good to fill it out and then put it somewhere where you forgot about it until we were here again. So over the next 7 days, where's someplace that you could put that? Maybe it's in your car, maybe it's in your wallet or handbag, maybe it's on the bathroom mirror or the refrigerator, but someplace where you'll see it, and someplace where we could begin acting out as a community, people who are able to speak life into each other. Jesus did that over and over. He saw people and he always said the right thing to them. Always. And we want to be people like that, always saying the right thing. Let's pray as we close tonight. God, thank you so much for the power of words. We know they're powerful. Sometimes we forget it until after we've said them. But we know how powerful they are. This universe spoken into existence with words that came from you. God, would you please help us as a community over the next few weeks get better and better and improve, and let a fire be ignited within us to always be speaking life, always be speaking love, always be speaking encouragement to those around us, God. And would you help us to give grace to those who aren't there yet or aren't walking in this, God, and learn how to be people that even when we're not spoken life to, we can speak life back to them. We thank you so much for the words that you're speaking over us tonight, that you love us so much and that we belong to you. And we thank you for that. Amen. Well, just a couple reminders as we leave tonight. If you filled out that Connect card, go ahead and place it in the baskets outside in the lobby. If you filled it out online, thank you for doing that as well. Let us, our prayer team, know how they can be praying for you. Also, we've been talking about over the last few weeks the Be Rich campaign. That's still ongoing. If you brought a card tonight filled out, you can drop that in the basket also, or you can do that online. Also, of course, our regular giving that happens here at the Hub in those baskets, or it can be mailed in, or you can use the app. You can use the website, and we just continue to thank you for your generosity. This is just this amazing, generous place that through everything that's happened over the last year and a half, that no matter what's happened, this community has continued to be generous. So just that's awesome. A couple other things just before you go, and I feel like I'm creating a list for you, and I don't mean to, but I'm trying to remember all of them. Kids feeding kids, we've talked about this great opportunity. Of course, we've done it for every year for the last few years. This year is going to be amazing. There's a table right out in the lobby. It is helpful for the team team that organizes that to let them know if you're coming Friday night or Saturday morning. So you can let them know at the table, but also just to kind of check out everything that's a part of this. If you've not been a part of one of these Kids Feeding Kids events before, you will love it. You will have a great time. Just sign up. Don't ask any more questions than what time do I need to be here, because you will have a great time. And that's it. We'll see you next week for part 2 of Speak Live. Thank you so much for being a part of this gathering. It is better because you're a part of it. So thank you for being so.